House of Edtech, episode number 19.
This is Tim Charleston, Technology Supervisor, and you're in the House of Edtech with Christopher Nessie.
The House of Edtech podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get your free audiobook download at audibletrial.com/House of Edtech. Welcome to the House of Edtech podcast. I am your host, Christopher Nessie. The House of Edtech podcast explores how technology is changing the way teachers teach and the impact that technology is having in education. My objectives include discussing technology that is changing our classrooms and schools and sharing information you can hear about today and use tomorrow. I talk to teachers, leaders, and creators like you and have them share their stories. The purpose being, whether you use it or not, technology is changing the way we teach and how our students learn. And welcome back inside the House of Edtech. 2 weeks into the school year, and I'm tired. No, I'm just kidding. I am super excited that the new school year is here, and I'm really excited and thankful that you are here inside the podcast, taking some time to learn about technology and education, and I have a really great episode in store for you. I have a great interview to share with you. I got to speak to Patricia Brown. She is an EdTech integrator from Missouri. We had a fantastic conversation, and she has a lot of great ideas that she shared here on the podcast. I also have coming up my EdTech Thought, a little preview. I'm talking about hashtags and how to have fun with hashtags on Twitter. You definitely want to stick around for that because there's a little bit more humor in that segment this episode. I've also got my EdTech Recommendation, and if you're into designing websites or you're considering building a website, you definitely want to see what I'm recommending this episode. And of course, I've got the House of EdTech VIP, and I'm going to talk a little bit at the end of the episode about an upcoming unconference that we like to call here in the tri-state area EdCamp NJ. And I'm going to give you some information about EdCamp NJ coming up at the end of the episode. So without further ado, number one, thank you again for tuning in to the House of EdTech. And number two, let's head over to my featured content and my conversation with Patricia Brown. Patricia works in the Ladue School District, which is out in Missouri, and she is an adjunct professor at Lindenwood University, and she's also an EdTech consultant. She has a bachelor's in business information systems and secondary education from Tennessee State, and she also has 2 master's degrees, one in educational technology, the other in educational media design and technology. And for her master's degree, she attended the University of Missouri-Columbia, and she also attended Full Sail University in lovely Orlando, Florida. She has been an educator since 2001. She spent 9 years in a classroom in the St. Louis public school system. Patricia is really interested in how students learn and the role of technology in enhancing student achievement. She is passionate about providing educators with practical ways to integrate technology through her trainings, her blog, and her website. She believes preparing teachers will ultimately prepare students to compete in our global society through 21st century teaching and learning. And if that wasn't enough, she also is happily married, and she also carries the title of Mom-in-Chief to her 5 sons. Welcome to the House of EdTech, Patricia.
Thank you.
I'm so glad that you are here on the podcast.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
My pleasure. So let's dive right in because I'm excited. As I said before we started, we connected really quick in the last couple days, and I saw an article on Zeit, and I said, Patricia gets it. She's doing amazing things. I got to get her on here. So let's go to the beginning again. I'm certified in social studies, so I always like to do a little bit of a history lesson every now and again. So let's get your history. What attracted you to a career in education, and also what drew you to technology?
Well, my mother is an educator, And unfortunately, growing up, I had zero interest in being an educator. When I was a child, my mom used to have us help her in her classroom. We would do bulletin boards and we would carry things in at the beginning of the year, carry things out at the end of the year. So I was just totally like, that's not something I want to do. However, I kept getting pulled into different careers and jobs as a teen and as a young adult in college that involved children. And so I would always be working through summer camps or youth programs. And so I kind of kept going towards dealing with kids. And so then at my university, I was always interested in technology. And so they created a program called Business Information Systems in Secondary Education. So it allowed you to have that business sense and that technology sense, but also be able to teach it to kids. And so that's kind of what drew me there. And I have been doing it for 14 years now, and I can't see myself doing anything else.
An educator after my own heart. I can relate to your story because, as I said, my dad was a teacher. Well, he still is a teacher. And he was, my inspiration, as I imagine your mom was the one who, kind of got you into this whole mess.
Absolutely.
Now, when you were a classroom teacher, because I know you're not in the classroom now, what did you teach?
Well, I taught at within the St. Louis Public Schools. I was a computer technology teacher at a gifted middle school and high school. We were the only middle school full-time gifted program in the state of Missouri. And so what I did was I taught technology computer courses. And then as we expanded from a middle school, we branched out to become in high school. And so then I taught business ed courses like personal finance, computer applications, digital media, just anything that dealt with technology, business, career preparation, those type of courses is what I taught for 9 years.
Then when you went from that, was it administration or you just went into technology integration? And so where does it take you from there?
Well, I always was the tech liaison in my building. So I would help teachers informally, because that wasn't my formal title, but I would help them informally with technology integration, helping them find out different tools they can use in the classroom. And so I kind of bridged over to that arena full time with Ladue School District as a technology integration coach.
And what are some of your responsibilities now, not in the classroom day to day?
Well, my job solely is to help teachers integrate technology. And that could mean modeling in the classroom for them, providing professional development inside their classroom, as well as district-wide. I also help find resources for the teachers in order for them to find good tools that they can use to teach their content and engage their students.
What do you think is the most significant benefit for integrating technology?
One of the best benefits is it engages our students. It allows you to open up your classroom to be able to share, and your students be able to share the things that they're doing, as well as you are able to share the things that you're doing in your classroom. Get ideas from other educators. So you're not closed in those four walls, but you can be able to branch out, and a lot of things you could not do without the use of technology.
Now, if we go back to when you were in the classroom, what are some things that you did given the technology that was available?
Well, when I started teaching in 2001, it's very different from what we have today. As a matter of fact, teaching in an urban school district, we did not have funds and money to provide those new tools. A lot of times I've had computers that were what we call dinosaurs. And so one of the things I wanted to do was to be able to provide my students with the experiences that that other kids are getting in the more affluent districts. So I wrote a grant and received $25,000, and I used that money to purchase iMacs, flip cameras, digital cameras. And so what we did, I exposed the kids who would not have had that opportunity to using those tools. Because of that, I did one example I have is one of my students, because of his experience being able to use Macs, he was really into music and really into creating what they call beats and things like that. And so introducing him to a program like GarageBand was like an eye-opener for him. Because of that, he now attends Full Sail University, and he is in his, I believe, third year now, getting his bachelor's degree. Had he not been exposed, and not to say that he may not have gotten an opportunity somewhere else, but as a sophomore in high school, being able to have the opportunity to create music using GarageBand and to be able to edit it, and then being able to have that opportunity at such a young age, he now, like I said, in college is really excelling.
And I'm sure that's just one of hundreds of stories you could tell where you exposed and introduced a student, and now, you know, they ran with it. They spread their wings and they're off they go. Absolutely. Can you give a specific lesson or a project that you used with the technology? One of your favorites.
In personal finance, we dealt with good credit, bad credit. And so what I used to introduce the lesson, I used extra normal to grab the kids and their attention and to get them really involved in what the lesson was going to be about. And so basically, I introduced myself as an avatar, explained to them what their task was. And their task was to create a commercial. And they created a commercial discussing what they learned about good credit and bad credit. And I mean, it was phenomenal, the different things that they came up with. To this day, I still have some of them on YouTube that I share with teachers, because I also teach at Lindenwood University. So I share with them some projects that I did. Because a lot of times people think that when you're working in an urban district that you're kind of limited with what you can do with your kids. And I really like to be able to show them that if your school can't get it, your school doesn't have the money to buy it, your district doesn't have the money to buy it, find other ways to get the tools and the resources into your classroom, whether it be you write a grant, you solicit some companies. But if you have an idea, you have something that you want to do with your students and expose them to something great, then you have to take the initiative sometime to do it.
I agree 110%. I'm also myself in an urban setting, and you know, there's availability for some things, and other things, you know, we got to fight tooth and nail to get it in the hands of our students. I could do a whole other episode and podcast on why that shouldn't be, you know, but I'll save inequity in education for another day. One thing I did when I was, you know, FBI researching you on the internet was I saw that you've done a lot with Pinterest, and you're an award-winning pinner. Talk a little bit about that.
Pinterest is one of those sites that you can just get lost in and you can just spend hours. And so that's pretty much what I do when I have free time, which is rare. But what I do is I look for resources that teachers can use. I'm all about being practical. I'm all about finding things and tools that are easy. And so Pinterest has been like my go-to place. And so when I find a resource, when I find a website, an app or whatever, I pin it. And some kind of way, I've been getting so many followers that people have taken a notice, and I've received awards for that.
That's fantastic. What are some of your favorite tools that you've been able to curate and gotten really positive feedback from, that you've either used yourself or you've recommended it to teachers and they're just like, wow, thank you so much. This is awesome.
Well, there's so many. I would
just give me about maybe 100 or so real quick off the top of your head.
I probably could, but I'm not going to do that today. But one of the things that has really been my focus, a lot of times teachers ask for specific, well, we're in a Mac school. We use iPads in our district. And so a lot of times the teachers are asking for apps for specific content areas, for specific things. And when we first rolled out our iPads, we had, and I'm not exaggerating, thousands of apps that we were just putting on iPads. I want this app. I want that app. So I got to the point where I'm saying, what I thought to myself, is it really all about just having a lot of apps? Or are we really looking for things that can provide an impact on our students' learning? And so what I did was I looked for tools that have a content creation abilities, such tools like EduCreations, 30 Hands, which is a great tool for younger children, PresentMe, Powtoon. So different things where they can take the content that they're learning and create something to show their learning. So it could be a form of assessment. And so although those practice tools like math, a app that may help them practice math facts, or a reading app that allows them to read books are great. They're wonderful, but you really want to be able to have tools that allow your kids to be able to be creators of content. So using iBooks would be a great one, is to be able to create an iBook based on something that they learned in their classroom, using an iBook to create to show their experiments that they used in science, on a science project. So different ways that they can the children can create is what I really look for and has the best impact.
When you're curating apps, in your position, are you finding apps that cost money, or do you try and look for the best free option that's out there?
Free is always great, and that's pretty much what I focus on first. Very rarely do I buy an app that costs more than a couple dollars, and it really has to be a great app for me to purchase it, because not only am I looking for apps that appeal to my teachers in a more affluent district where we have the money that whatever you want, we can purchase. I also am having in the back of my mind those teachers who cannot purchase it through their district. Working in the St. Louis public schools, I would go to all kind of conferences and I would get so discouraged because I knew we didn't have the money to buy it. So that has pretty much been my focus, finding things that are free, that are simple, that are easy to use, that any teacher can use. And it doesn't mean that you have to have a lot of money or big budget, but you can be able to use something that is useful for your kids and doesn't cost you anything.
And do the teachers, do they seek you out, or do they make appointments with you? How do you get involved?
Both. Sometimes I have to be a little pushy and I have to say, hey, I noticed that you are teaching this specific content. I found a great resource over here that may help provide additional resource for content or an end of project for whatever you're working on. Or I do have teachers that say, hey, I got this idea. I'm not sure how to do it. I don't know if it's even possible, but could you look and see if you could find X, Y, and Z? And so it kind of works both ways. I find that the second one is a much better outcome for me when I have a teacher come to me and say, I have this idea, or I really could use your help on this. I want to do this, but I'm not completely comfortable with it, as opposed to me coming to them. Because some teachers get overwhelmed when you bring them a bunch of resources. And so what I've really strived to do, especially this year, is to tell my teachers to focus on one tool at a time. So pick one thing that you want to work with this entire school year and totally integrate it in whatever you do, whether it be math, science, social studies, or whatnot. And I had a great story today. One of the teachers, actually, she is a member of our district PD committee. And she said that to the group. She said, yes, Patricia told me that I need to focus on one tool, because they were getting all overwhelmed with all these different topics and things that they wanted to focus on for PD. And she said, Patricia said, focus on one tool, integrate that. That's what true integration is, when you can take something like Educreations. I say that again because I love that tool, because it's so flexible. You can use it with anything and be able to use it in math, use it in reading, use it in writing, use it in social studies, and be able to completely have a workflow so the kids aren't lost when you use it. They'll be able to use it for all different types of projects.
The district that you're in, is your position K through 12 that you cover, or are you just secondary?
I am K through 4. Now, we used to be K through 5, but we have a 5th grade center now. So I get to focus just on kindergarten through 4th grade.
In all the episodes leading up to this, I always talk about, my content has been geared towards secondary education, high schools, middle schools. So what can you share a little bit of, what are some important things to consider when you want to integrate with the younger students? And what are some app recommendations you may have?
Making it as simple as possible. Using apps that, like I said, allow them to create. One of the ways that I measure the effectiveness of technology and measure whether you're using it or integrating it is through the SAMR model. And the SAMR model substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition. And so you go from the enhancement level of using technology, which would be substitution and augmentation, and you go up to the transformation level. And so allowing teachers to understand that you don't just use technology just to use it, but using that particular model allows you to measure, how effective your use of technology is. And so I really focus on that because that allows you to input those higher thinking levels for your kids when you get up to the redefinition level. So some examples of how we get to redefinition: mystery Skyping. This is something that we've done for the last couple years. We started that with the Digital Learning Day, which is in February of every year. So we've done those, and to tell you, the kids just absolutely are so engaged, and they really love participating in those type of things. Another way that we've gotten to the redefinition level, we do a interactive art show. You have your traditional art show where you have art on the walls. Parents look around and they say, "Oh, that's nice," and they see their children's blob on the wall and they think it's the best thing in the world. Well, we wanted to take it to another level and allow the kids the opportunity to explain and to talk about maybe why because they picked 2 art pieces. Why did you pick this art piece? What inspired you to create this project? What type of tools did you use? And so what we did was we recorded their voices using the website Voxer.com. And so then we attached that to a QR code and put that QR code right attached to their art piece. So when the parents are now walking around looking at the art pieces, we provide them, or they bring their smartphones and they can scan that QR code and hear their child explain. And to see the looks on their faces, to hear their child actually talk about their project. You could ask your child months later, "Oh, that's nice. Why did you make that?" And they'll probably say, "I don't know. I don't remember." But in the time that they're actually creating this project, we have them write reflections. So I'm working directly with the art teacher, which is a content area that you may not necessarily see a lot of technology. And so we wanted to be able to integrate it within her class. And so what we did is have the kids write a reflection at the time that they're actually completing their projects. We keep the reflection with their projects. So at the end of the year, when they pick their two projects, we have a reflection already written. The first year I did it, of course, it's trial and error. The first year I did it, I recorded 400 plus kids' voices. I sat there with them to try to make them remember what they created and why they created it. And I said, "Oh no, this cannot happen next year." So we came up with the idea of having them write a reflection at that time. This year, what I'd like to do is take it to the next step and actually use augmented reality and use Erasmus. And so actually record them creating these projects. And then when the parents scan the QR codes this time, they'll see a video of their child actually producing and creating this project. So it's really been a phenomenal project that we've been able to do with our school community, because it affects the entire school, and it's something that is integrated in a content area that is less likely to be integrated in.
Absolutely. And I don't want to minimize art. I'm not saying I'm good at it, but what you just described, that can be adapted to anything, really at any grade level, to the idea of reflecting or documenting the learning. We're talking any subject, and the kids are going to learn, but now you're integrating these technology skills, which is so crucial at this point.
Absolutely. And even something as far as writing, being able to create another project I think about is when students actually create fictional stories. And sometimes when they read it themselves, they get a different insight, and they figure, "Oh, I left this word off, or I left that word off." And so another way to use QR codes is to have them record their voices reading their stories. They can scan it, listen to it, and decide, if this was a great story, is there something I need to change in it? So it can be adapted for anything. Another way that we use the redefinition level or the modification level, with using our iPads, and I mentioned before the Educreations app, and how we you can use it to have your students document or show their learning, say in math. And so we're working on a specific problem. You figure out the problem, and then we use an app called Reflector. It's really not an app. It's a program or application that's on your computer. And basically what you use it to is to reflect what's on your iPad onto your computer. And so then you plug that into your smartboard or your projector and show it on the screen. So you can show up to, I think, 10 different iPads. And so what we've used is an opportunity for kids to show their learning. And so they may we may reflect it up on the screen. Another way that we've used that is to monitor our kids. So when the kids are actually sitting at a center, we could pull it up, reflect up on the screen what they're actually looking at on the iPads. Because some of the things that you do have to worry about with younger kids is them going to other places and things like that. So it's another way to monitor exactly what they're doing.
It's like the new version of when we would go in a computer lab and the teacher at the podium could look at all the other computers in the room. Absolutely.
Another thing that I'm really big on is using social media in the classroom. And my philosophy is to break down your classroom wall, open it up for other people to share, for you to share with other classrooms, for them to see what you're doing, and also for you to be able to see what other classrooms are doing as well. Be able to allow your kids to connect. I do know that when you give your students an authentic audience, they work a lot harder because they know someone else is going to see their work. They know someone else is going to not necessarily critique it, but be able to judge it, I guess you can say. And so we use a lot of Twitter in the classroom, and not necessarily students having their own specific Twitter accounts, but maybe a class Twitter account or a teacher account, and being able to tweet out in 140 characters what you did that day. And so each child may get a turn throughout the month to be able to tweet out at the end of the day. Using, of course, like I said, when we participate in Mystery Skype, that is how I get all of our participants, is through Twitter. And so I'll put out a response or a tweet out to Twitter to ask for classrooms and teachers who are interested. We also use tools like Remind 101, which is now just called Remind, but allowing teachers to be able to text their parents to remind them of different things that are upcoming in the classroom or in the school. We use Bring It or Sign Up Genius to allow parents to sign up for parent-teacher conferences. And just one example, I had a teacher who is not so tech savvy say to me the other day, "Oh my God, I just really am so happy I'm using Sign Up Genius." She's like, "You don't know how many hours I spent trying to organize parent-teacher conferences. Now I just send an email out with the link, and within 5 minutes, I'm done." And then the parents get their own response. So this is a person who is not tech savvy at all. And she's able to use a technology tool that's really simple and easy to use. And it has really benefited her and allowed her to have a tool that makes her life a whole lot easier.
That's fantastic. Let's play a game.
Oh my.
Games are fun.
Yes,
you know that.
They are.
Games
I
are
love
fun.
games.
This is a game that I borrow from another podcast that I listen to called Principal PLN. And that podcast is all about, administration and principals helping other administrators and, so on and so forth. But they do something called word association. And I think it's phenomenal. And it puts you more on the hot seat than you already are. So I'm going to give you a word, and you just tell me the first thing that comes to mind in one word.
Okay. I'll try.
All right, here we go. Technology. We'll start off easy.
Fun.
Google.
My 2 words. My everything.
You could have cut that down to just everything.
Everything.
Common Core.
Necessary.
PC or Mac?
Mac. No question.
Were you always a Mac person?
I was not always a Mac person.
That's what they all say.
I was not, but I became a Mac. Team Mac.
All right. And the last one, communication.
Powerful. Important.
Powerfully important.
Powerfully
I'll let you go.
important.
I'll let you go 2 words that I don't even know if they go together, but they work in this case.
That works.
All right. Patricia, what are some of the ways that people can get in touch with you and connect with you post podcast appearance?
Well, I'm on Twitter. My Twitter handle is Miss Edtechie, MSEDTECHIE. I also have a website, missedtechie.com, and I blog at missedtechie.blogspot.com. And my Facebook page is MS Edtechie, as well as my Pinterest. So Google Miss Edtechie and you can find me anywhere.
You heard it, folks. That's an open invitation to start picking her brain all that you want. Well, Patricia, thank you so much for taking time to be here on the House of EdTech. I appreciate it, and you are on my list, as I took a lot of notes here. You are on my list of must have on again.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun, and I will be happy to come anytime.
We will talk to you soon. And now for this episode's EdTech Thought. I call it Fun Hashtags. If you're a teacher on Twitter, you've more than likely used a hashtag while tweeting. However, if you're not familiar with hashtags, a hashtag allows you to categorize a tweet and contribute to chats and topics that people are discussing on Twitter. Earlier this week, before I recorded the episode, I came across an awesome hashtag. The hashtag was teacher band names. And the premise was basically to take the names of bands and musical artists and create a parody of the name as if the artist was involved or related to teaching and the world of education. I had a blast participating in this. It wasn't even a chat. It was totally off the cuff. It just started the other night, and I saw it. I jumped in. I saw some tweets from Jason Bodner over on the Principally Speaking podcast, and you can check out his podcast at principallyspeaking.com. I saw a couple of tweets by him, and I said, I could do this. I've written parody songs before, and this seems like fun. So real quick, I just want to share with you some of the teacher band names that I came up with. Here we go. Huey Lewis and the Newspaper Club. 5 Detentions for Fighting. KC and the High School Band. Sunny and Sharing is Caring. And I also tagged that one with hashtag bit of a stretch, but I liked it. This one got a lot of traction and some retweets. Rage Against the Copy Machine. The next one really just cracked me up when I thought of it. Hall Pass and Oats. Fleetwood Mac Lab. School and the Gang. And for all you rap lovers out there, the notorious IEP. There were a lot of great tweets sent out with this hashtag, and you can still find them if you search the hashtag teacher band names, all one word, all together. So check that out. And why am I sharing this? Well, there needs to be a social aspect to social media. It can't and should not just be tweeting and retweeting link after link and the constant pushing of unoriginal thoughts or somebody else's thoughts. Heck, that's part of the reason why I started the House of EdTech. I wanted to be a content creator. But to social media, engage in conversations by participating in things like Twitter chats. And if you're a regular listener, you know I've talked about this before. And if you're a first-time listener, well, first, welcome to the show. And, participate in chats. Get involved socially and connect with people as best you can. And perhaps you can take a stab at starting a fun hashtag or even coming up with a hashtag that can be used as a chat. So have fun with hashtags. That's my EdTech thought. for this episode's Edtech Recommendation. For this episode, I'd like to recommend Weebly. Weebly. Weebly gives millions of people a surprisingly easy and affordable way to create a website. With a Weebly site, teachers can start their own class, team, club, professional, or personal website and display their personal and professional interests. Weebly gives everyone the freedom to start a site, blog, or even an online store that works beautifully, and it really does look awesome across all computers, phones, and tablets. Weebly offers a range of pricing options, including a free plan, which I take advantage of, but they also have some premium plans available that start at just about $4 per month. Weebly has great tools that you can use to plan, build, publish, and grow a site that meets your goals. I currently use Weebly as the platform for the site I created at my school, and I created a site that sets up a reservation system for the computer labs and laptop carts. It was simple, and it was easy to set up, and it's also even easier to maintain now that I have it going. So I recommend that you check out Weebly.com. And if you're a Google Chrome or Chromebook user, you can also install the Weebly app from the Chrome store. So head over to Weebly.com and check out Weebly. And now for the House of EdTech VIP. This episode's VIP is Mr. Ron DiGregorio. Ron is a social studies teacher from Ohio. He's a graduate of The Ohio State University. Ron is a supporter of technology integration, and he sees the vast potential to incorporate all types of student strengths, content creation, and higher-level learning skills, and most importantly, fun in his classroom. I had a conversation this week with Mr. DiGregorio on Twitter, and he let me know that he recently began a one-to-one initiative in his school, and he needs our help. He isn't afraid to try new tech tools. So if you've got recommendations and advice for Ron and his one-to-one program, I'm encouraging everybody who listens to reach out to Ron about his one-to-one initiative. Connect with him on Twitter. His handle is Mr. DiGregorio, MrDegregorio. Reach out to Ron. Tell him that Mr. Nessie sent you. I know we have a lot of great ideas about one-to-one in the community, so please reach out to him. Let him know that you're there to help him and support him, as I know you can. And congratulations to you, Ron. You are the House of EdTech VIP. And that's going to do it for this episode of the House of EdTech. I am Christopher Nessie. Keep the conversation going and visit my website, mr.chrisnessie.com. You can also check out the show notes for this episode, and again, this is episode number 19. If you have questions or comments, I would love your feedback. First, you can leave a comment on the show notes for this episode. I enjoyed a recent conversation and connecting with Brett Warner from edtech.tv in the show notes for episode 18. You can also click the SpeakPipe button on my website. And you can also call the House of EdTech listener feedback line at 732-903-4869. You can also email me, feedback@chrisnessie.com. I'm Mr. Nessie on Twitter, MRNESI, and just use the hashtag House of EdTech. And I'm really excited you can also connect with me on Voxer. And my Voxer username is cnessie4602. If you enjoyed the show, I would like you to do two things. Number one, please rate and review the podcast on iTunes. Your 5-star rating and positive review will help keep the House of EdTech front and center for others to discover and enjoy. And number two, please tell somebody else about the show and let them know what we're doing here on the House of EdTech. And I also have one announcement that I mentioned at the beginning of the episode. If you're currently in the tri-state area, or if you'll be in the area on November 22nd, 2014, then you need to attend EdCamp NJ. This is the hottest unconference of the fall PD season. The cost is free, so head over to edcampnj.org to learn more and register today. I'm currently speaking to a lot of great educators who are doing amazing work with technology, and I'm very much looking forward to sharing these conversations with you in the coming weeks and months. So why don't you come on back to the house when I release episode 20 on September 28th, 2014. As always, thank you for listening. And remember, using technology isn't difficult. Just give it a try.